In a moment of pure triumph, the Discovery Channel Eco Challenge. Morocco, an ancient land of mystery and contrast. From the high Atlas Mountains to the pitiless Sahara. From deep, narrow gorges to forbidding peaks. It's a timeless place, beyond the bounds of the ordinary. Now, the age-old and the modern meet. This arena is so vast and trackless that any miscalculation can spell disaster. Team Rubicon is approaching passport control number 10 in 21st place. A map reading error sent this team of 3 women and 1 man up the wrong mountain.
Oh man, PC-10. Long awaited.
You guys get lost?
Yeah, we did. We took a different golly system. Like, the terrain features here are so much the same and stark, and just really thought it was the right one, and it wasn't.
The altitude, 10,600 feet, is punishing Army Sergeant Kathy Callahan. She's a 2-time Eco Challenge veteran, but the thin air is overwhelming her lungs.
I think she's okay. I think she's just hasn't been at altitude before, and she's scared. She hasn't experienced that feeling, and on top of cold, it just made her really nervous.
Kathy and rookie racer Lisa Jung joined Rubicon only weeks before the race. The team reflects Rebecca's belief that a successful race depends on athletes, not gender.
I know so many great female athletes, and there's definitely a different dynamic that goes on of communication and patience and understanding. It seems to me there's no reason why there shouldn't be more women on the team.
Despite Kathy's condition, Rubicon presses on. The first place team is nearly 20 miles ahead. Spain's team Cepos has built a commanding 5-hour lead with endurance and masterful navigation.
El secreto, hombre, entrenar. Lo primero, entrenar, claro. Entrenar y tener.
The secret is training. Training and having the mental strength to put up with whatever there is.
Aguantar mucho. Y encima,
You're hungry, thirsty, you've got heavy bags and not enough clothes to cover up properly. You have to put up with a lot.
In the last 2.5 days, Cepos has slept only 4 hours. A daring strategy.
The big question for Cepos now is, will the lack of sleep pay back later? Are they going to be too goofy now to make more navigational decisions?
Cepos is navigating through Morocco's high Atlas Mountains. PC7 marks the start of the second race leg, a 100-mile journey from the desert through the mountains to Camp 2. Cepos is in front. Rubicon is far back. Teams are converging on PC14. Here they will confront the massive rock formation known as Jebel Oujdat and a 340-foot rappel of its sheer north face, equal to climbing down a 34-story building. PC14 perches on a rocky ledge. The only access, a treacherous goat path. Tired and ailing, once favoured team Aussie arrives in 6th place.
Oh, we're plodding along. We've had our ups and downs. Yeah, it's hard to get a moment when all four members are feeling good at the same time.
Captained by Jane Hall, the Aussies tackled the rappel while enduring illness and injuries.
Can we unclick those?
After winning the 1995 Eco Challenge, Jane led her team to 2nd place last year in Australia.
Eco Challenge races, to me, have been significant in making me see the big picture of life. It's made me realise that you can do things that you never thought you could. It appears that the races are superhuman, but they're not. They're just a whole bunch of average type guys and gals who want to get out there and have a go. And I think there's a lot of people around the world that really want to do that but don't think they can. And they just need a normal sort of person like me or any one of us to go up and say, well, this is what we do. You can do it too if you want.
Right behind the Aussies, the Americans of Team Vale are gaining ground. Led by Billy Mattison, these racers from Colorado's high country are unexpected contenders.
Watch your jersey so they don't get sucked in.
Mine's pretty tight. Let's get out of here.
Well, it was really neat to meet the top competitors and be actually in the thick of things this year.
Mountain bike champion Sarah Ballantyne has spurred Vale to climb from 20th to 7th place.
Our strategy for the race, to just go our own pace, not start off running, not get stressed by being in the middle of the pack, try to avoid injuries, try to avoid mistakes, and just keep moving at a nice, steady pace that we knew was comfortable for us.
The 315-mile course takes racers through some of the most remote wilderness on Earth. Their only lifeline, an emergency radio.
Team Evolution, this is HQ. Do you need assistance?
Teams are disqualified if they request evacuation.
I have a team member that is extremely sick, has vomited in the last half hour probably about 20 times, is having little bouts of delirium.
Okay, Team Evolution, the medical is going to come pick you up.
Within the span of 15 minutes, Mike Trissler was feeling great, like $1 million, and next thing we knew, he was bent over, vomiting, got dizzy, had some little fits of delirium, had some panic attacks. At that point, I decided I'd open up the radio, call for help, get the helicopter here as quick as possible.
Do you have a return ETA to Camp 2 with the patient?
We're just taking off. We'll be there in about 15 minutes. The guy does not look very good. Over.
A desperately ill Mike Trissler is rushed to Camp 2. The nearest hospital is hours away. Mike's life is in the hands of the race medical team. As medics unload him, Mike passes out in Dr. Adrian Cohen's arms.
At 4 o'clock this afternoon, they stopped for a water break, and as we've instructed all teams, and they know from their experience, they treat their water with iodine. Although Mike was fairly thirsty and perhaps didn't give the iodine tablets enough time to work. Within 10 to 15 minutes, he was prostrate, vomiting and diarrhea, and in a severe enough condition to call for a medevac to take him from the field.
Morocco's water contains countless microorganisms.
So painful, just my stomach and that.
They can wreak havoc, causing everything from cramps and fever to death. Any of them could be the source of Mike's agony.
I had a really bad fever. That was the worst thing. I felt like my head was going to melt off.
Mike Trisler, Team Evolution, just learned an important survival lesson in the bush in Morocco. Don't drink the water.
Mike will recover, but in the days to come, other racers will suffer similar fates. Staying healthy is only one aspect of the Eco Challenge.
Exactly how you came up. Keep with that.
Another is turning 4 individuals into a team.
Along the edges, as you're going along the fixed lines, there's loose rocks.
Identical twins Ernesto and Ramon Rivas of Team Mexico have a history of conflict with female teammates.
There been some arguments.
Stop it.
I know.
You know what? The experience, you won't finish.
I know.
If there's an argument, sleep.
I know. That we're going to do it after this.
Be flexible.
We're not those kind of type of guys that go with the girls and, oh, are you okay, and do you need help? Or the main reason here is competition, not to take care of anybody.
Only weeks before the race, the woman on Team Mexico dropped out, so they recruited American athlete Emily Johnston.
I have to keep reminding him to make some decisions in English, or when they're going to make a decision to let me know, because they'll sit there, let's go, and then they'll take off down the trail. I'm like, hey, wait a minute, what are we doing? Okay, where are they going? See, that's what I'm talking about.
That's why they're yelling at you.
The course includes 31 passport control points, or PCs. Teams must check in at every one. Rookie Team 2020 reaches PC 10 in 32nd place.
Stay as long as you like. You don't charge by the hour, do you?
No. Only if you use the chair.
2020 is Malaysia's first entry in the race. Led by Yoon Lee Chan, they aim to be the first team from Asia to complete an Eco Challenge.
I'm really the driving person in the team. I'm the one who sort of says, okay, come on guys, let's get off our butts and let's go.
After covering last year's race as a journalist, Yoon Lee decided to assemble her own team for Morocco.
I think many women in Malaysia are, have been told since they're little, oh, you can't do this because you're a girl. One of the things I like doing, one of the things I enjoy about outdoor sports is really breaking those mental barriers that people have, and they're like, oh wow, a girl does that.
And your teammates, where are they now?
Oh, they're all passed out.
Where? Can you point
These
them out?
roughy tufty guys, one, and the other 2 are there.
Yoon Lee and 2020 get some much-needed rest as the North African night descends. At 1 a.m. beneath a full moon, 2020 moves on. Their goal is not to win, but to finish.
I think a race like the Eco Challenge really pushes you way beyond any physical limits. So much so you have to rely not just on your physical strengths, but on your mental and spiritual resources. You have to have the ability to sort of know your limitations, and you need to be able to say, yes, you can do this, and no, you can't do this. You really need a lot of self-knowledge.
Sometimes self-knowledge means knowing when to call for help. In the dead of night, a distressed team breaks out their radio.
Team Rubicon to HQ, come in please. Team Rubicon to HQ, come in please.
The radio is every racer's last resort. If Rubicon is calling, it must be serious.
HQ from 14. I thought I heard Team Rubicon calling headquarters. Just heads up on that.
So if you guys can keep trying out there.
Rubicon, this is Casey. I'm listening. If you're out there, Come back, over.
But there's no reply. Amid the hardships, their passage through this untamed landscape offers racers moments of grace.
We came across the horse camp just about on dawn. There was a quiet sort of stillness to the valley. It was cold. We got on the horses and they looked feisty, but they looked incredibly beautiful animals. I couldn't believe that we were given the opportunity to ride such really magnificent animals. I figured that we'd just get, I don't know, local horses that weren't too good for anything, but these were just absolutely magnificent.
Moving unexpectedly well, Team Epinephrine reaches the horses 5 hours later. Led by first-time racer Paul Romero, they embody the eco-challenge spirit.
We're having a blast, man. Fun's the first priority. We're feeding our bodies well, getting sleep actually, and we appear to be moving up in the ranks.
All other teams were selected by committee. Epinephrine was chosen by lottery.
About 2 days before the deadline, I came across a mailer that I got from Eco Challenge. It was just a one-page entry form. Faxed it on in. Sure enough, 10 days later, I get a phone call from Eco Challenge. Out of 100+ teams, for the one lottery position, Team Epinephrine was pulled out of a hat, literally.
On the 18-mile horse leg, competitors ride Barb stallions, symbols of the independent spirit of the Berber people. The course takes racers across a dry leg bed, which leads to the fertile Bougamez Valley. Here, the Berbers live as they have for generations, raising grain and fruit in the traditional way. They rarely venture out, and the modern world rarely intrudes. Teams pass through tiny villages, providing locals with a unique spectacle. For Paul Romero, it's an awe-inspiring experience.
It was amazing to find that these trails were taking us through the backyards and the front yards, practically the homes of some of these people that hadn't seen anybody that looked like us in their lives. And sometimes when we begin to pass through a town, the word would get out in the rest of the town that here comes some racers, and they'd come out and they'd line the rooftops and they'd line their little trails of these steep hillsides, and they just gawk and they just stare and they'd smile, and they're beautiful. They're just so brightly dressed. It's fascinating.
It's a rare encounter with an isolated culture. Team Mexico arrives at PC-16 in 8th place.
Hola.
For them, the horse leg will be an entirely different experience. Emily Johnston draws a fiery stallion. And a new conflict erupts for this troubled team. A headstrong stallion forces Emily Johnston of Team Mexico to retreat.
Just want a horse that will get me there. That one, who tried to throw me a couple times. I mean, was doing the whole thing, and they're like, "Oh no, big deal." Couldn't happen that often. But I work with horses at home, and that's great. It's not a bad horse, but it's going to slow us down. I'm going to end up working with this thing the whole time. It's just skittish. What's wrong? Training it. It just keeps trying to throw me off. But it's doing that right here, so I just asked for another horse. He said, no, you can't do that. It's just gonna, you know.
You're gonna have another horse to go on? No, what it is, it's the luck, basically luck of the draw. Those 4 horses were just pulled out just for you guys. You can switch within your team.
I'm the best rider on my team. I work with horses. I know a horse like this, and it's not a bad horse, but it's just going to take a while to get from here to there. Okay, you're not bending, fine.
I can't, sorry.
Oh, no, I'm not getting on this horse. No. No. Give me the reins, I'll walk. Okay. Merci. Merci beaucoup. Come on.
Emily heads off on foot, with no help from her teammates. The horse leg ends at Camp 2, an oasis where exhausted racers can relax, resupply, shower, and enjoy a freshly cooked meal. Camp 2 is also Eco Challenge headquarters, the base of operations for 250 people who make this event possible. After riding all night, Cepos arrives in first place. Here, the Spaniards get maps for the final leg and plot their route for the 13,000-foot climb up Mount Magoon.
The good team's going to love it because it's a great achievement to summit a mountain. And the teams that are struggling are probably going to be wondering whether to go on. That's the Eco Challenge.
Four hours behind Cepos, Team Aussie dismounts in fourth place. More than 4 days of racing has left its mark.
Good to get off the feet, but geez, I got a sore backside.
Yeah. How was it?
Oh, long. You don't get to fit it all in, you know. You can't train for everything. So you figure you just got to grin and bear it. Team Aussie's strategy for finishing this race is just to keep going, don't stop, stay steady, get to the end as quick as we can.
As Aussie arrives, Team Cepos departs. Focused and confident, they tighten their grip on first place. They now face the most difficult stretch of the course. From Camp 2, racers will trek 12.5 harsh miles. The goal, Mount Magoon, North Africa's second highest peak. As they attempt to climb this 13,000-foot mountain, competitors will battle fierce winds, dehydration, and numbing cold. At night, the temperature drops well below freezing. The trudge toward the summit will challenge their minds as much as their bodies. The 44 remaining teams are scattered across the high Atlas. Cepos is 55 miles ahead of the last place team. Rubicon is missing, lost somewhere between PC 10 and 11.
We've gotten a note about Team Rubicon. They left PC 10 yesterday, and they have yet to come to PC 11.
Fish HQ, Roger. We do have a search party out for them at the present time.
The Discovery Channel helicopter, outfitted with a gyro-stabilized camera called Westcam, joins the search. Its powerful lens can zoom in close enough to identify teams from high in the air.
Okay, I think that's them. If you can get a number.
Okay, we'll do an ID first.
Yep. Okay, we'll keep working them.
39.
39.
Not them. 50. We're looking for 51.
And keep looking.
They search for hours.
Good. 11 o'clock.
They find Rubicon near the mouth of the Taya Gorge.
Yeah, that girl's not walking very good.
After wandering for 26 hours, they reach PC-11 to find race director Mark Burnett waiting for them.
You guys have a little bit of luck with me because you didn't get through on the radio. We know you tried to call, but you didn't get through.
Well, we were actually calling to, not for a rescue, we were calling about the altitude medicine. Because that was a lot of the symptoms that Kathy was having, and we did open that envelope and use, because the instructions were...
No, that's actually right. Okay, that's a reasonable reason to call.
Daylight is dwindling. The Taya Gorge lies ahead. The path through it requires a series of 14 precarious rappels.
No jumping with the classic.
After sunset, this trip will be even more dangerous. The safety crew fears Rubicon can't manage the unsupervised descents.
If they go down, if you want them to go down that badly, it won't be unsupervised. We'll be taking them the whole way, and maybe not even letting them rappel.
But how do you know that until you've seen them rappel? They may be the best rappellers here.
They're going to be in the pitch black, and they're going to be in there for a long time.
So go and watch and see what you think.
We're prepared to go ahead with this, but the condition is that one of us will probably escort you down at least halfway.
You know what, you have to move fast, deliberate, intelligent, but keep getting through the gorge. Be the climbing leader. You know, do the best you can. I really don't want to hear a radio that we have to come and try and get, because we cannot get you out tonight. You think you were cold last night? That's the fridge.
Oh my God, this is so cool!
Day 5 has ended, and athletes are showing wear. Bodies battered, they lack sleep, warmth, and sustenance. Many wonder if they can go on.
At least one member of every team is having a problem at this time. What it takes to stay in the race right now is the team working together.
Five hours after entering the Taya Gorge, Team Rubicon arrives atop the 340-foot cliff at PC-14.
I mean, our race strategy has just been to go along at whatever pace we can, you know?
Right.
If people aren't healthy and we need to wait for them to be healthy, that's kind of part of the deal. I mean, you can't really sit there and pout about it. It's done with. There's still a long ways to go.
Summoning courage, they drop into the darkness. Rebecca sees taking risks as a way of life.
I think so many people get stuck in a rut job or relationships and don't make the change or are scared to take a step. The most exciting times that I've had are all because I've taken some big step. I guess it's just like racing. You do something that's scary and you don't know if you'll finish, you don't know how the outcome will be, but then the outcome is more exciting.
Five hours later, Yun Lee Chan, a Malaysia's Team 2020, approaches the ropes.
Hello.
Hello. Welcome to PC-14.
Thank you.
Team 2020.
Yep.
Welcome.
Thank you. Wow, you got
There's two rappels. One's about 40 feet, and the other one's 300 feet.
Okay.
And it's the second one's very neat, and it's overhanging all the way.
These expert climbers are savoring every moment of this race.
We rested a bit after the canyoneering, walked up through the goat path, the shepherd's trails, and did the rappelling in the moonlight, and that was amazing. And we're like, oh, I wish you could see this in the light. But it's like, oh well. But you know, who else has done it in the dark? You know, who would, in their right minds, what sane person would do them in the dark? So, we think we have a unique experience.
"35 miles ahead, the Navy SEALs of Team Navigator leave Camp 2. Their mission, to complete an eco-challenge. Last year, Nate Smith and his teammates were within hours of finishing, but a storm sabotaged their plans. This year's race offers redemption and something more.
You see a country you've probably never been to. And you don't just see the country. It's not like paying $1,000 and having a tour guide take you around. You're seeing things that tourists don't even see. Yeah, it's tough. It's extremely tough. But it has its rewards. Anytime you move 7, 8, 9, 10 days and test your body and your mind to its outer limits, I mean, your emotions pour out when it all finishes. And I think that's a great reward.
Ahead, the highest peak on the course. Mount Magoon is only 12.5 miles away, but the climb is more than 7,000 vertical feet. It's taken Team Aussie 19 hours to make that climb. The summit is within reach, but the mountain is exacting a terrible price. Altitude sickness is a constant threat, even for veteran racers like Jane Hall.
The mountain legs are hard for us because we're not mountain people. When we got to that really high ascent, I was suffering from severe shortness of breath and really struggling to take 6 steps in a row.
This race reads like a recipe for altitude illness. Rapid ascent to altitude. You find cold and hypothermia, we'll tick that one off. You find physical exertion at altitude. You find sleep deprivation, and that's another given.
At high altitude, the lungs strain to put oxygen into the blood. If they can't keep up, the lungs fill with fluid. The brain swells, and finally, the entire body shuts down.
You can't breathe and you can't think straight, and there's nothing you can do about it. Basically, altitude illness is something that'll kill you.
When you're really struggling on something that's you can see the finish too, you can see the top of the mountain or you can see the other side. I would often, for example, set little goals like take 6 steps before you have to stop. Okay, now try and take 7 before you have to stop. Now try and take 8. We were zigzagging up the mountain at one point and I'd take myself up one section and then he'd give me a hand, giving me a push up the other section, and then I'd go again. It's really just putting one step in front of the other. Just keep reminding yourself and your teammates that it might take a while, but you'll definitely make it.
Ancient myths say these peaks took shape when a giant named Atlas angered the gods. The Roman poet Ovid wrote, "Atlas was changed into a mountain as huge as the giant he had been. His hands and shoulders were mountain ridges, and what had been of his head was now the mountain top. Such was the will of the gods, and the whole sky rested upon him." Team Sepos is first at PC 23. Pushing to keep the lead, they stop only long enough to refill their bottles.
We still have a lot to go. About 30 to 40 hours in the competition. A lot of things can happen.
Two hours later, a new contender arrives. Team Vale. They've climbed from 7th place to 2nd, but they haven't been able to overtake Sepos.
I don't think those guys make mistakes. I don't think they've made one the whole race.
Success shocks these low-key mountaineers.
Finding out we were in 2nd place. We weren't expecting that at all.
I thought we goofed up a little bit on that one too. We know we did.
We couldn't believe it when we got into the top 10. All we've been doing is just moving along. We were not expecting this at all. It's amazing. Every now and then you look back
Mike, come right over here,
at where you've been.
And what you did last night, and how many miles you've traveled. It's amazing. And you're so psyched to do a different event, but then 50, 60 miles into it, you're ready to try something else too.
You hit it out up the road.
This is my 3rd race, and we knew it was going to be long and hard, and it's always harder than whatever you expect. The Spanish team's going to be tough to catch. We thought for a while in the mountains we were really bearing down on it, but their navigator, I think, is really good.
As Vale gains momentum, other teams are losing steam. "36 hours behind Vale, a weary Team Rubicon finally checks in at the horses. Lisa Jung is struggling to continue with a bruised right foot.
So I was limping really badly last night. All last night. I didn't even know if I'd be able to walk today. I'm really surprised I made it here.
She feels pressure from her teammates.
They're not doing it on purpose, but it's hard because I know they've all been training for a long time, and you know, this means a lot to them, and it does to me too, but it was so sudden for me that being here at all has been good.
I don't know that Lisa's feet hurt have anything to do with this being a new thing for her. It's hard for everybody. I think it's more than she expected, but it's always that way. It's that way for me. It was that way for me last year, but you know, she said yes to come.
The team is about to mount its horses when Lisa is overcome by nausea and vomiting.
Is that tight enough?
It's bad.
Darkness looms. Rubicon must decide, wait or push on. "33 miles ahead, Team Epinephrine is having a perfect race. As they reach PC22 in 6th place, race director Mark Burnett greets them.
How are you feeling physically?
Good, really good.
Anybody hurting?
No, our feet are good.
Really?
No, seriously. You want the scouts on it, too?
Yeah.
Nobody's hurting. Our feet are perfect.
Feet are perfect.
We're ready to go.
We're ready to go.
All night.
So therefore, you might as well.
Might as well.
It's not us against the teams. It's our team against our team at this point. We have no pressure against us. We're the lottery team. It makes it really fun.
We should
We should go.
We should go. We should go and eat. Let's use the daylight to our advantage.
Team spirit is fueling Epinephrine's success.
Huh?
Back at PC16, Rubicon is waiting on Lisa Jung. Finally, after 45 minutes of coaxing, she reluctantly agrees to continue.
Okay, we're going.
Where's the horse?
Follow Kirk.
Tell him you want the Trajan T1.
Trajan T1.
Can't.
This ride will test Rubicon's teamwork and resolve. Before the night is over, they'll be pushed to the limit. Group dynamics are starting to tear some teams apart. But Team Mexico has come together after pairing up with Argentina. Nearing Magoon Peak at sunset, the Rivas brothers take a lesson from the Argentines' genuine camaraderie.
They were doing what a team does. They were supporting each other, they were looking out for each other. Ramon and Ernesto were so fiercely competitive that they weren't getting that part of it. And in a race like this, you can be extremely fit physically, you can be extremely competitive, but if the teamwork aspect is not there, you're never going to excel. Florence, on the Argentinian team, she told these guys, she said, look, you need to be taking care of her. She needs to know what's going on. She sort of read them the riot act. That was the big turning point.
Throughout the race, Team Mexico has teetered on the brink of implosion. Now, they leave this peak with a new understanding. After days of flawless racing, Team Cepos reaches PC25 7 hours ahead of Vail. But Nerea Martinez is gravely ill, with fever, chills, and delirium.
No, it's cold.
I only remember the moment when I first started to get sick. And at first, I didn't say anything to my teammates and tried to keep my balance, keep walking and stay awake. But I got to the point where my feet were giving out and I was going to fall.
It may be altitude sickness. Her teammates aren't sure. They radio Camp 2 for medical advice. If doctors decide to evacuate Nerea, Cepos will be disqualified immediately.
The problem is with Nerea. Yesterday she was very cold. Her blood pressure must have gone down, and she started complaining about being cold. It wasn't that cold. Right now she's lying down. Her feet are very hot and she feels freezing. She's very hot, and besides, she does not recognize people. She does not recognize anybody. And she just says, it's cold, and we must keep going.
Is she conscious or unconscious?
Semi-conscious. She's in a state of consciousness, but she does not know anything.
Nerea's confusion is a classic sign of altitude sickness. To confirm that diagnosis, doctors need her vital signs.
Just a moment. We can't find her pulse.
How about her breathing?
That's difficult to count because she's talking all the time. I'm cold, I'm very, very cold. So it's very hard. Impossible.
An hour passes. Nerea is no better. Time is running out.
Respirations are 24 and easy. The eyes are 4 millimeter and slow to respond. Skin is warm and moist, and it's pink.
Dr. Cohen advises the PC staff on how to proceed.
Okay, thanks for that. Let's stick with the plan and start heading them down the hill.
When we spoke to them, And the reports we were getting suggested that her symptoms were not being alleviated just by resting at that altitude. The advice we were able to give was to continue walking and supporting her because they were heading downhill.
Race management let Sepos continue, but they must make it down the mountain on their own. Priorities have changed. Saving Nerea's life is more important than winning.
What are you saying, Nerea? You have altitude sickness, and now we have to descend.
The descent is treacherous. 8 miles of steep, narrow trails in total darkness. Nerea is too weak to walk. The team's only option, carry her. As the long night grinds on, the strain of racing without rest reveals team's true character. Sepos is pulling together. Rubicon is pulling apart. During the night, teammate Lisa Jung began vomiting uncontrollably. So Rubicon backtracked to PC-16, a place they'd left behind 6 hours ago.
I want to talk about this rationally. But I really think I want to send you guys out without me.
Do you want to explain why?
I don't feel very good at all right now. Still.
Okay. I really hate for you to make a decision like that and then, you know, be fine in 15 minutes or whatever. I mean, there's already been so many times in the race where we all felt really bad, and it passes. Just, you can do this. I know you can. Just, you have to want to.
I mean, it just worries me.
What worries? I didn't get that.
I mean, I was seriously not doing okay and asking for your guys' help and wasn't getting it at all. I mean, I know you were trying to give it to me, but it was more like help in order to get there for you and not...
Yeah, but what you were asking to do was not an option.
To leave you
get
in a
off
town
horse
with
and leave you in the middle of
Berber
nowhere and just leave the horse and ride off. And that wasn't an option that you were asking for.
Okay, well, how about when I wanted to come back here? Well, we could still find
And we did.
And that's what we did.
That's why we're here.
Took us a while to find it.
Again.
I mean, thinking back to when I was trying to get on that horse the first time, I guess I'm just a little bitter that you guys were trying to make me go at that point. I should not have been getting on a horse at that time at all. That to me was very wrong.
I mean, it wasn't the ideal situation, I agree, but it was to get out to daylight and get all of us to the oasis, you included, so that you could rest up and feel better, because staying here, we're going to freeze our butts off, and it's not a comfortable place.
I was throwing up every 2 minutes. I just personally wanted to put somebody on a horse. If that's done with, I mean, we can't.
No, I don't think you have our perspective where we've seen a lot more of this. And the stuff that you have, I mean, it's not minor because it's you know, I mean, it hurts and all that, but I mean, probably a third of the people in the race have, you know, maybe not a third, but a lot of people that are here have a lot of problems. You just deal with it. And if, you know, I mean, it's just part of the race.
Yeah. If we do leave right now, how far is it, or how long will it take us? Does anybody know?
An hour and a half or something to the sleep part?
For that check.
I'll go there
But I'll talk about it. We'll talk about it there, okay?
The night can't hide the tensions tearing this team apart.
I'll stay together now.
Good luck.
Merci.
What was your quote you had, Andre?
Even to the contenders of Team Vale, the course is daunting.
It's just, you think you're done with all the climbing, and all of a sudden you got a 4,000 meter peak you're going up, or 3,400 meter peak, and then you're, next thing you know, you're traversing some rock-strewn ridgeline that's just unpassable at night, pretty much. And there's just a ton. I think we did about 20,000 vertical yesterday. And I'm not kidding.
More to the south side, it sounds.
Vale trails Sepos by 5 hours. Reluctantly, the Americans are beginning to think about winning.
It's still a possibility, believe it or not. As crazy as this race has been going for us, and I'm sure everyone else, it's still not out of the question.
The Spanish team's medical problem is the only sign of weakness Sepos has shown.
Sounds like their gal is suffering a bit, and we initially didn't even think of that. We heard they've been ahead 7 to 10 hours and that they had it in the bag, but like in this kind of race, you never know. So no, it sounds like we might still have a chance of doing well, and I think we feel really good. Obviously, as soon as we get on our bikes, that we'll do well with that leg. So pretty exciting. Stay tuned.
Sepos is first to the bikes. Carrying Nerea down the mountain cost precious time, but she's made a remarkable recovery.
You doing okay?
I don't know what happened. My teammates told me that I was sick up there. We were up on the ridge on our way to PC 25, and we had to go really fast. Then we had to walk for a long time, but I couldn't, so they carried me. But I'm okay now, and soon we will leave on the bikes.
Nerea is the hardest person to get to know because she never complains. She's the strongest girl. She always keeps going. She's the strongest of all, and the one that likes sports the most. She always wants to do more.
Out of 5-10. Okay.
Finally off their aching feet, Sepos starts the bike leg. They face many tests. The inky night, hard scrapple roads, and the maze of an unmarked course. For most racers, the day begins in the high Atlas. A relentless machine of rock and weather, the mountains eliminate the injured and devour those who lose their will.
Physical exhaustion is a reality in the Discovery Channel Eco Challenge. You cannot end this race fresh as a daisy. The chief medical dangers come in chronological order with this race, and it started at the sea kayak leg, where our real problems were hypothermia, exhaustion, even in those early days of the race. As the race progresses into the climbing stages, we worry about trauma. Some teams will try and push as hard as they can with as little sleep as possible, so 3 or 4 days into the race, they are looking really tired. As they trek through the mountains, one false step in the rugged terrain around here can mean the end of a race.
The enormity of the march up Mount Magoon forces Yun Lee Chan of Team 2020 to resort to unusual tricks.
What I've been doing is moaning. So like, and if you get it right, you can sometimes, your moans with each step, like, especially when it's really painful at each, when your feet, the soles of your feet are really painful, and like you, I hope the hardest part is over, but I'm sure, well, one thing about this Eco Challenge is that, the hardest point is always where you're at. Well, I say this now, and there's still half the race left to go.
the start of the bike leg, Vale learns they've gained an hour on Sepos.
You're quite a way ahead of the third.
But they're on their last leg, right?
And you're not far behind, not far behind first, and the woman was very, very tired.
I heard that.
Let's do this as quickly as we can, you guys. Yep. We're going to make up some time. It's now or never.
The bike leg begins midway through the High Atlas at PC 26. From the mountains, the route winds through valleys and villages to historic Marrakesh. The course carries racers into the foothills with a series of arduous climbs and sharp descents. It's the longest leg of the race, 120 miles. Leaving the High Atlas, they navigate through towns and across fertile plains, feeling the path grow firmer and smoother. Beckoning teams, the magnificent Koutoubia Mosque. As they assemble their bikes, Team Vale is in good spirits.
We call it Morocco. There's more rocks in Morocco than we've ever seen in our lives.
Here we are with Team Vale, who are about 3.5 hours off the Spanish team Sepos in the front. But just like everything else in the Eco Challenge, the Spanish team may take a wrong turn and be gone for 24 hours the wrong way. I mean, we've given instructions, but you can absolutely get lost on this bike leg. Plus the Spaniards, the woman, as we know, is having a tough time. And anything can happen in 195 kilometers. And these are good bikers, so it certainly is not over by any means. It's going to be a good race.
I hope I remember how to ride this thing.
Sarah, a champion mountain biker, has also completed 6 marathons and 5 triathlons. She'll need every bit of that experience. Vale is racing against history. No team has ever come from behind to win an Eco Challenge. To do so will demand extraordinary effort. Like an oasis from the days of the great caravans, Camp 2 offers relief to weary teams. Rubicon arrives the morning of day 6. Despite injuries, Lisa Jung is persevering.
You know, Lisa's trying really hard. She had a really good day yesterday, and we had a lot of hiking, and her feet hurt really badly. And she went through it and didn't want to get on those horses, and she did. And so yeah, I have patience when people, you know, have it in their heart like that.
She just needs to be motivated a lot. Not because she's not motivated herself, but she just kind of needs that little extra push sometimes.
How do you do that?
She talks nice to her and I talk mean. I'm the dad. So far it's working. We're here.
Wrung out by a long, painful night on horseback, Lisa is wavering.
How do you feel about continuing on?
I don't know. Last night I was pretty much not wanting to at all, and I told them that I would decide today. I'd like to, just because of the thought of having gone this far. So, I'm gonna try, I think, but we'll see how this next few hours go.
The race for first place has narrowed to 3 teams: Sepos, Vale, and Aussie. 4 hours behind Vale, Aussie picks up the pace, heading for PC 27.
We had been running sort of 3rd and 4th for a lot of the last quarter of the race. So we pushed really hard in those last couple of bike sections. We never stopped, we never gave up. Then we seemed to establish ourselves fairly well in 3rd position. and realised that the Spanish were going slower and slower as the race progressed, and thought that we may have an opportunity to actually overtake them.
But the balance of power begins to shift as Vale reaches PC 27.
Down here, Ken.
You guys are exactly 3 hours behind the Spaniards.
And you picked up half an hour since this morning.
And you rode much better.
Michael Closer and Sarah Ballantyne earned national championships in mountain biking.
At 6.5 Ks. So I have 6 point. What do you guys have?
But two-wheel technique isn't enough. Teams must decipher detailed directions written in English.
After about 400 meters. Do you want to stop and get water there?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go.
It's going to be a long, hard day on the bike.
You guys zero out?
Yep. Yep.
Team Cepos is still in first, but they've lost their edge. The Spaniards ride well enough, but they don't read English, a failing that has led to several wrong turns. Only 2 hours after leaving PC 27, Cepos is miles off course and utterly lost. Jane Hall's Aussies make PC 27 just after dark. To have a chance at second, they must keep rolling. They are bloodied but unbowed.
There's a big bruise there. What do we do? Just keep going? Doesn't hurt, doesn't blow. There's a lot of times during the race when you do want to just stop, and you do want to quit, and you don't want to keep going. It's only for a short time. All I have to do is to work through this. The sooner I work through this piece of discomfort, the closer I am to the finish. It's not in my nature to be a quitter. So I think that's what pushes me through those hard times.
Which way's the road out?
Oh, it could be over there.
Yeah, to the village.
In the past 4 days, they've slept only a few hours.
Yes, it could be a long night.
Okay, let's cruise.
At PC 28, the Spaniards learn Vale is closing in.
For your information, Team Vale is 7 kilometers behind you.
Nerea rests while Antonio studies the directions.
He wants to make sure that he understands everything so he doesn't get lost.
Trust me, he can't get lost. Trust me.
At PC 28, we stopped and sat down with the person who spoke Spanish and asked him to translate each word. We wanted everything translated.
Incredibly, before Cepos can leave, Vale arrives.
Is Team Vale coming in?
Vámonos con ellos, pintamos.
Team Vale is joining them. Now the first place. This is going to be an incredible race.
It was during that time that we saw Team Vale arrive, and after that, the whole world was underneath us. It was so disappointing.
You could hear people yelling. You could see Team Cepos. You could just feel it and see it in them. You could just see their faces kind of drop, and they saw us come in, and they immediately left.
Yesterday, Cepos led by 8 hours. They depart PC 28 only minutes ahead of Vale.
From there to the end, it was an odyssey, a terrible, terrible night. We were wandering everywhere and we slept on our bikes because we tried to push on, thinking that in 18 or 20 hours we would be there.
Neck and neck, Cepos and Vale race into the dense Moroccan night.
And Cepos was not ready to let us pass at all, and it was intense. It was nighttime, pitch black mountain bike racing, team racing head to head. Mike was out leading the way, and you were just bouncing over rocks, and Sarah was just going ballistic. She was out in the lead, dragging us and yelling. And
that Sarah Valentine was the world mountain bike champion, and the team was very strong on the bicycles.
It took us 15-20 minutes of just neck and neck riding before we actually got all 4 of our riders past them and pulled ahead. And got about 10-15 minutes probably ahead of them where we couldn't see their lights in the distance behind us anymore. So we kept pushing on, and that was the last time we saw Sipos.
Just 25 miles from the finish, Vale seizes first place. As the lead teams near Marrakesh, the race stretches back 150 miles to Mount Magoon, where Team Rubicon is faltering again.
Rebecca, Lisa has vomited 3 times and is now unable to walk. Is that correct?
She's vomited more than 3 times and she's unable to walk. Stomach pain, dizzy, and stumbling, and we're on a very steep trail with a drop-off. And to guide her down, but she's not able to do that. Over.
Break Marrakesh for a medical emergency. Break, clear traffic.
And you place your position just, you're probably only, what would be about 3 miles out of PC18, would that be correct?
That's correct. Standing by. Over.
She felt better yesterday after spending some time at Camp 2 and relaxing, and wanted to go for it and give it a shot, and it just was just not working. She just couldn't go anymore. I think she's got some sort of stomach bug, it seems like, and she's not able to keep any food or anything down, and it's too bad Lisa's not going to make it, but she worked so hard. She did a lot. She did a lot. She had a good race.
Lisa's 7-day ordeal is over. A heartbreaking end to Rubicon's race. At PC20, Yun Lee and the Malaysians confront a different problem. As the race progresses, PCs shut down. If stragglers don't arrive in time, they're disqualified. Team 2020 is barely surviving the cutoffs.
Then we just have to rush for the deadline, that's all.
I don't like rushing for the deadline. It makes me nervous that you arrive there, they're just cutting it very fine. Yeah. I don't like that. I'd rather have a bit more leeway.
It doesn't work that way anymore.
Yun Lee and her teammates aren't racing to win. Their goal is simply to reach the finish as friends. After 15 hours, 2020's march to the summit is nearly over.
There's no journey if it's not just a physical journey. You journey with your mind, your spirit, your emotions. You journey with friends. You journey together. So no journey is just a physical one. Especially here.
For the Malaysians so far from home, it was never about reaching a destination. For them, the journey is the destination.
Almost. Yes. Closer. Closer. Getting closer.
I think we've not only traveled a physical distance in terms of journey, in terms of length of journey, but we've also traveled an emotional distance.
Come on, guys.
In the 13th century, a Moroccan explorer wrote, "Never travel the easy road, for out there is a world of wonder to explore." Reaching this lonely peak demands everything athletes have. But for those who pay that price, what a sight it is to behold.
That's Team 2020 on the top of the summit of Magoon.
Team 2020 has reached the literal high point of their race. But they must keep moving. The next PC is 13 miles away. Race managers doubt they can make the cutoff.
These mountains are so harsh, you know. It's just such a harsh, unforgiving landscape, and yet somewhere within this uninhabited desert, you know, you find your sense of humanity.
Team 2020 trying to make the cutoff at PC 25.
Having survived the mountains, Team Mexico arrives at PC 26 in 9th place.
They're working on the light issue right now.
Besides making excellent time, they're finally clicking as a team.
I think on the bikes we're going to not be feeling our limps quite so much as we were in the last couple of days, so I think we're doing well. And Ramon and Ernesto, one of their real strong point is the mountain biking, and it's my weak point, so I've given them a lot of my weight, which is a tough thing for me to do, but it makes sense so that we can all move as a team.
Team Epinephrine arrives moments later in 10th place.
For 8 months, we talked about how we're going to come to Eco Challenge and jam on the bike. You know, bring on 200 miles of climbing, whatever. You know, and then over the course of the past day and a half, I've managed to pull both of my quadriceps. And going to the bike isn't looking so such a good thing for me. But we're gonna work as a team on it.
What's up, buddy?
And give it our best, man. We are gonna finish the race. There's no doubt about it. There's no doubt about it.
Paul will need his teammates as never before.
He's our strongest biker. He's a great, great mountain biker. And you can tell he was in a lot of pain. So it starts the biking just with this long, steep climb out of this canyon. And it's going pretty slow. So we set up a tow system so that we could kind of pull him along. And we took the stuff out of his pack so that he had a really light pack. It was a real kind of team moment for us. We're just like, you know, we're going to get through this all together.
As some teams near the finish, others are battling just to stay in the race. Miles of rock lie between Team 2020 and the cutoff at PC 25.
This kind of rock formation, this kind of mountains are just so unfamiliar to us. You know, we don't have ridges like this, we don't have rock bands and cliffs and mountains at home.
What's the time?
9:44.
We have 2 hours, 15 minutes.
Yun Lee and 2020 must push past exhaustion.
Come on. Come on, Corey. You're a triathlete member. You're a runner.
They're running on nothing but willpower. Teamwork and perseverance pay off as they defy expectations.
What's the time now?
Welcome. It is 10:22.
About an hour and a half.
You made it. Yes. Hey, you guys, good job. Good job.
I think it's easy to worry too much, and then you just let the fear intimidate you.
2, 3.
So you got to go in, quite with a positive mind and not get too intimidated.
The best part about it is that those guys said that we couldn't do it in the time.
Yeah.
We did it. Yeah. Let's get to our bikes, man. Let's get some time on this road. Yeah.
I believe it. Marrakesh bound.
Yeah. There have been ups and downs, but to be honest, actually, today is the most fun racing for this checkpoint. It was really, oh, come on, let's go! That was really the most fun part.
Malaysia 2020 just left, so they should be there within 2 hours, I suppose. Excellent, that sounds like the luck they need, so anticipate their arrival and wish them luck.
That's Team 2020 taking up the very, very, very back of the pack, heading towards PC 26 in the bike pickup.
For 7 days, racers have explored this exotic kingdom, breaking barriers of physical and emotional strength, and discovering a culture as diverse as the landscapes they've passed through. Like a beacon, the majestic Kutubia Mosque heralds the end of their 315-mile odyssey. Below that lofty tower, the ancient city of Marrakesh and the finish line.
The first ones, you're in. You're in.
Got about 15 minutes, 20 minutes to town.
Yeah, the race is yours, you guys. Unbelievable, huh? We weren't expecting this.
After 6 days and 22 hours, Team Vale is only 5 miles from victory.
Well, it's definitely the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, physically and mentally.
Vale ends their expedition outside the old city walls. The first team to come from behind to overtake the leader. And the first Americans ever to win the race. They savor their hard-earned success.
You surround yourself with a bunch of people that are used to winning and good athletes, and you can do anything you want. And we were able to pull this one out, and it feels awesome.
The race rolls on. Aussie closes the gap on the beleaguered Spaniards.
They then told us that we were actually running in second place, so we realised that somewhere we'd overtaken Spain. So that was pretty exciting, and cycled as hard as we could, worked together as a team, and ended up second. It's great.
Jane Hall and Team Aussie claim second place, 7 hours behind Vale.
That's absolutely incredible.
Team Aussie performed really well. We never stopped, we never gave up, and I think we were rewarded by that perseverance.
What happened last night? I was trying to stay awake and I said, John, keep me awake. So he sprayed me with his bloody water bottle.
No one completes an eco-challenge without injury. But for a bruised Jane Hall, the trip was worth the torment. 24 minutes later, Team Cepos arrives in third. A devastated Nerea Martinez is close to collapse.
When she's just made it to the top of the finish line there, the ramp, and just kind of hung on her bike, and I knew exactly how she felt. I knew the blokes looked okay, like they were disappointed. They'd all be disappointed, but I felt that she would be just really empty, just totally empty. And I thought that if that was me, that all I would want is I just would want a hug. And I just went over and gave her a hug, just to tell her that she'd done really well, and it was okay.
My feet were killing me. They felt like they were on fire. I just want to finish this competition. My only problem was my feet were really hurting. Everyone likes to win, but I think the important thing is to finish, and that's what we did.
This moment carries a price most people would not pay. But then, these athletes experience life as few people do. Days from the finish line, high in the Atlas, Navy SEAL Nate Smith of Team Navigator fights illness and altitude.
Going to 14 grand healthy is a tough thing. Doing it when you have a chest cold with fever and chills is just on the 5th day of the race. It's bad.
Team Navigator, is it?
You got it. Right.
Nate and his fellow SEALs refuse to let pain keep them from finishing.
We were never not going to pull it off. We were going to make it this year. We're ready to get on the bike, so. We're going to catch teams on the bike. You watch, we're not stopping.
Finally, Team Navigator closes in on their dream. Yun Lee and 2020 are the very last team to reach the bikes. The Malaysians are racing on their own terms, and on those terms, succeeding.
You're way ahead of cutoff here, okay? And if with the time it's been taking people to bike, you guys are gonna have no problem making it in.
Yeah, how many
okay?
hours is that?
It's been taking 22 to 25 hours to bike. It's 190K, but the cutoff's not till noon on Saturday.
So exhausted they lack the strength to pedal the first incline, 2020 pushed their bikes towards Marrakesh. Paul Romero and Epinephrine end their race on a high note. Taking 8th place, they've done remarkably well for a rookie team, especially one picked by lottery. Minutes later, Team Mexico arrives in 9th place. The SEALs of Navigator, in 17th, realize victory isn't everything in an eco-challenge.
I guess I always assumed successful adventure racing was finishing first. I mean, that's what I assumed a successful adventure race was. And I learned you can have an awesome race and not be first.
I learned humility. I've never raced where I was the lead guy at any time during the race, and this is the first time. It didn't take me long to figure out, hey, we still want to keep moving, so I had no problem with it. But it's humbling, and the race course is humbling, and the team thing was just fantastic. I mean, you guys were extraordinary.
It has taken Yun Lee 10 days, 23 hours and 31 minutes to complete this race. On her quest, she has passed through an unforgettable range of emotions.
It's been an intensely absorbing experience. You're just totally, immersed in this race. The distances are almost beyond imagining, at the very limits of your endurance. Everything is just so magnified. The beautiful visions you see around you, the pain in your stomach, the blisters in your feet, the cold. It's just so improbable that, to do something that's just quite ludicrous. But at the same time, it's still something that's humanly possible, that you can actually accomplish it. It's really to test yourself, to see whether you can meet the challenge.
The Eco Challenge is more than a race to a finish line. It's an expedition into the soul, a journey of mind and body, of self-discovery, of revelation. 220 competitors from 27 countries came to Morocco. 55 teams started. Only 32 finished the race. The winners receive a prize of $25,000. The top 10 finishers are invited to compete next year in Patagonia, Argentina. In December 1999, the Eco Challenge will journey to one of the last truly wild places on Earth, Patagonia. Shaped by geology and sharpened by weather, this remote landscape will test competitors' skill and resolve. Teams will trek epic glaciers to touch the high edge of the Andes Mountains. Following the flow of wild rivers, racers will endure the legendary Patagonian wind as they cross mountain lakes. They will navigate terrain as diverse and rugged as it is spectacular. Argentina's Patagonia and its tapestry of extremes will play host to the next Discovery Channel Eco Challenge.